नहमदुहु व नुसल्ली वसल्लिम अला रसूलिहिल करीम अम्मा बाद औज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम शहरु रमज़ान अल्लज़ी उन्ज़िला फ़ीहिल क़ुरआन सदक़ल्लाहुल अज़ीम व सदक़ रसूलुहुन नबियुल हबीबुल करीम नहनु अला ज़ालिका मिनश शाहिदीन व शाकिरीन अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन। Brothers and sisters in Islam, as you are all aware, once again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with the blessed month of Ramadan Sharif, where the doors of mercy, the doors of rahmah, the doors of forgiveness have been opened for us. Brothers and sisters in Islam, when we say that the doors of mercy and the doors of rahmah, they are opened. They were always opened, but in particular in this month, you will know from the narrations of Hazrat Abu Huraira radiyallahu ta'ala and in Muslim and Bukhari and in the other books of hadith that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, particularly in this month, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the doors of Jahannam are closed and the gates of Jannah are opened. And what this means is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not intend and does not want to send any of His creation to Jahannam. For example, if you have a building and you have a security guard outside it and the security guard closes the doors, what this means is that there is no entry, nobody is allowed in, or the guards do not want anybody to enter it. Similarly, when the doors of Jahannam are closed, this is a sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want any of His creation to enter Jahannam. Rather, the doors of Jannah are opened, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making it easy for us Muslims to enter Jannah, particularly in this month. And the scholars refer to this month as the spring of deeds, where the Muslims plant deeds for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by way of salutations on Hazrat Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the fasting, the giving of charity and extra activities, the congregations in the mosque, the recitation of Quran Majid, Furqan Hamid, and all of the other blessed venues that we hold. But today is the first of Ramadan Sharif, and in particular there are many personalities that are discussed in this month all around the Muslim world. And in particular today is the first day of Ramadan Sharif. The first fasting will end today, and in particular this day has been attributed to the birth of Hazrat Sheikh Sayyid abdul qadir jilani al-Baghdadi al-Hasani wal-Husaini, who was born in the year 471 in Baghdad Sharif in Gilan, and traveled to Baghdad Sharif in particular, and this was not by coincidence. And you will understand in the month of Ramadan Sharif, the Muslims focus on Quran Majid, Furqan Hamid. Quran Majid is discussed, it is recited continuously, privately, and in congregations. Like we have the Taraweeh, we have Muslims all around the world congregating in the mosques and reviving the previous way of the Sahaba and our predecessors on reciting the Quran Majid in Salat. So there is the blessed month of Ramadan Sharif, within it is Salat, Within it is the congregation and the recitation of Quran Majid, Furqan Hamid. So the focus is on Quran Majid. The Muslims try to understand Quran Majid, Furqan Hamid, because this is the manual of the entire existence. And by virtue of understanding Quran Majid, Furqan Hamid, Muslims will be in a better position to gain the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this would make them near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But brothers and sisters in Islam, there are certain personalities that are discussed in this blessed month, and this was foretold by Hazrat Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. And I present to you a narration from Tirmidhi, Imam Tirmidhi rahmatullah alayhi. He says that Hazrat Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam says that the Quran and his family, the holy blessed family of Hazrat Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, they are woven together. And when we say they are woven together, what we mean is that without one, the other cannot be understood, and without the other, one could not be understood. For example, if you want to understand Quran Majid, Furqan Hamid, and this is our goal, we will not be in a position to understand Quran Majid without the family of Hazrat Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And if we wanted to understand the family of Hazrat Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we will not be able to understand it without the Quran Majid, Furqan Hamid. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed that the birth of Hazrat Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani would come about on the first day of Ramadan Sharif, Yakam Ramazan, and this was not by coincidence, but this was meant to happen, and this was for the betterment of the entire existence, the entire creation. And therefore it is necessary for us to understand that today Hazrat Sheikh Sayyid Abdul Qadir Jilani's birth is celebrated throughout the Muslim world, and this is a personality that has an influence over all of the Muslims in the entire world. For example, Jamia Masjid Ghosia, Leabridge Road, WFIA, you see here in our masjid, this is named by Masjid Ghosia. It is attributed to Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani. The founder was the family of Hazrat Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani. And you see that all the Sunni Muslims, 90% of all the persons, if you were to calculate, that sponsored this mosque, they were affiliated, they were attributed to Hazrat Sheikh Sayyid Abdul Qadir Jilani. So the overwhelming majority of the Muslims throughout the world, they understand that Hazrat Sheikh Sayyid Abdul Qadir Jilani, he has an influence over the Muslims. And why this personality is very special to us, and why we commemorate and celebrate this person and attribute ourselves to Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani, is that a personality who was from the family of Hazrat Imam Hassan, was the grandchild of Hazrat Fatima Salamullah Alaiha, the grandson of Hazrat Sayyidina Ali Karmallah Wajhul Kareem. He was born in a place called Gilan, and his miraculous personality, he revived Islam, and his well-known name, which is known throughout the world, is Muhyiddin, meaning the reviver of faith. And Islamic sciences were diluted by the enemies of Islam at that time. And the arrival of Hazrat Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani, he not only fought against them, but he learned the sciences, he taught the sciences, and by virtue of teaching Islamic studies, he revived the structure of Islam. And this was not the first time the family of Hazrat Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they made this happen. We know that Hazrat Imam Hussein, he was also a reviver of Islam, and he was also from the family of Hazrat Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is not just a theory, but this is a reality that wherever the family of Hazrat Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is, whenever there is a difficult time on the Muslim Ummah, they will come forward and they will revive and they will help the Muslim nation. And just a few examples that I've present in front of you, and this is from a book, Bujatul Asrar, page 149 of my book. And we understand that Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani, he was a spiritual master, he was Imam al-Awliya, and from birth he was a Wali Allah, he was a saint, and he didn't achieve this by way of his activities or way of his devotions, but he was born a Wali Allah, he was born a friend of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he was asked that from some of his disciples, Mata alimta annaka waliyullahi. This was a question put to Hazrat Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani, that when did you know that you was a friend of God, when you was a saint, you was a Wali Allah? And he replied that when I was about 10 years of age, I used to leave my home to attend the school, and when I would come to school, the mudarris, the ustad, the teacher, he would make the children make way for me, and he would say, Afsahu li waliyillahi khatta yajlisa. He say, make way for the Wali Allah, make way for the friend of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this was quite understanding to me. I understood it very well, and I understood that I was a Wali Allah, I was a chosen person. And he says that then another person would ask, Ma haza sabiyu, who is this young man, who is this gentleman, who is this boy? And a reply was given that he would achieve great heights in the spiritual world. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would bless this child and he would be given, but there would not be an end to what he would be given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Hazrat Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani, he says himself that I did not recognize this person who was talking, who was giving us this information. But he says that after 40 years, I saw this person again and I recognized him that he was an abdul. He was also a spiritual master, and he was there to explain to the nation and introduce myself to them, to the rest of creation, the rest of Baghdad. And Hazrat Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani, he was also known by another name, Mubarak. And in Bujatul Asrar, page 150, Hazrat Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani, he says that when I was a child and I would intend to play with the rest of the children, and as children do, and he says that I used to hear a word, Ala aina ya Mubaraku. He says, O Mubarak, where are you going? What are you doing? And then I would run to my mother, and then I realized that I was a chosen person and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has brought me about for a purpose. And then a person would say, Ya Abdul Qadir, istafaituka li nafsi. O Abdul Qadir, we have selected you for ourselves, meaning he would hear this sound. So there are certain personalities like Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani who have an influence over us in this dunya, and by virtue of them we have a better understanding of Kitabullah and Sunnat Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and by virtue of them, their teachings, we become near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they are like pillars in a building. You see, in this month of Ramadan Sharif, the first day marks the birth of Hazrat Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani, who is from the family of Hazrat Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You see, the third day, it would mark the departure of Hazrat Fatima Salamullah Alayha, and then you will have Hazrat Khadijatul Kubra Salamullah Alayha, and then you would have Hazrat Aisha Siddiqa, the first Muslims, the Badri Sahaba who defined Iman, and you will follow, and you have Hazrat Imam Hassan alayhi salam also in this. All these personalities will be discussed in this month, and this is destiny. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intends for us to enter Jannah, and we can only enter Jannah if we have closeness with Kitabullah and Sunnat Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because through Kitabullah and Sunnat Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam we can gain the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is the ultimate goal for all creation, to gain the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And these personalities assist us in achieving our goal. So therefore, on the one hand, we are trying to understand Quran Majid, Furqan Hamid, and we show love and affection, and we do all these liturgical activities for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But life would be very easy for us, and we would find it easy to understand Quran Majid if we took some time and studied these personalities, study their ways of life, study their teachings, and because their lives were on the pattern of Quran Majid, Furqan Hamid. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to understand the life of Hazrat Sheikh Sayyid Abdul Qadir Jilani, and commemorate and show gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we were affiliated with this personality. وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين.